Hello, we ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. If you thought the worst thing about staying at an Airbnb was having a dirty squatty potty in the bathroom, or having to sleep in a bunk bed in a room with creepy dolls, then you have not seen Barbarian.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
This is 476 Barbary, right?
Yeah, I'm renting this place.
No, I booked it a month ago.
Are you sure you have the right place?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do?
Why don't you come inside and we'll call these idiots. Why don't you just crash here?
Oh, no.
I don't know if you got a great look at this neighborhood, but I don't think you should be out there by yourself. It's dry and there's a lock on the door. By the way, I'm Keith.
Tess.
You take the bedroom and I'll sleep out here on the couch.
God.
This process might seem overwhelming, but with a little practice, it can soon become a pleasurable experience. This is perfectly natural.
Released in 2022, just last year, Barbarian was written and directed by Zach Kreger. It stars Georgina Campbell as Tess, Bill Skarsgård as Keith, and Justin Long as AJ. This is the story of a short-term rental gone horribly wrong. Barbarian had a $4 million budget, and it made over $45 million.
Wow.
Huge success.
Yeah.
And I think I read that when it was on HBO Max, it was like the #1 viewed movie once it hit streaming.
Yeah. I watched it on HBO. I didn't actually get to see it in theaters.
Okay, I went to see it in the theater,
Hmm.
and it would have been a more fun experience if people were not on their phone
Oh,
during the movie. Yeah,
so rude. God.
I know.
Unplug people.
No. So this movie has a 92% critical tomato on Rotten
Wow.
Tomatoes, which is huge.
I'm actually
And
very surprised.
well, I'm more surprised by the 72% audience tomato. I thought that would be
Oh.
higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll get into it later, but like I watched this with two people and neither of them really liked it. So
Oh, interesting. I guess I mistook the number of people watching it for meaning people liked it, which is not always the
Yeah.
case.
yeah, I think a lot of people too, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, because I know I was this way. I knew very, very, very little about this movie going into it. And I wonder if a lot of people also, because I don't think it was marketed well in that it was very you know, kind of secretive, I guess, in the
Mhm.
plot. And so I wonder if a lot of people went to go see it without not really knowing what it was about. And then they walked out like, what the hell?
I feel like they were very cagey with the marketing. I didn't
Mhm.
hear anything about this movie until like, I don't know, 2 weeks before it came out. I saw a trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
The trailer was really good. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, oh, that movie is that. And I could never remember what it was called.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that creepy Airbnb movie's out.
Mm.
And I went to go see it. And like the trailer basically is the first maybe 30 minutes of the movie. It's a 90-minute movie. And then the movie takes a hard left and
Yes.
almost becomes a different genre
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
So I can see that giving people whiplash. And it's definitely not the movie I wanted.
Oh, okay.
But for what it was, I liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get in, like you said, we'll get into it later. I would have preferred the first act setting the tone for the whole movie instead of getting that quick tone shift.
It's funny because I feel like I have almost the exact opposite opinion, where I went into the movie thinking it was something completely different. And then it actually became, because that's the reason I didn't see it in theaters, is because I didn't think it was a genre that I would enjoy. And so when I actually did see the movie, it became the movie that I like. So I had
I
sort
love
of an
this.
opposite reaction to you. Yeah.
Or ships crossing in the night.
Oh, yes. And right at the cross section is Justin Long.
It's Justin Long. He unites us all.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
he does.
I never would have. Well, I don't know. I always really liked him, actually.
Yeah, he's great. Did you know he was in this movie before seeing it?
So I'd seen the trailer, and then
Uh-huh.
I must have seen his name in the cast at some point.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But having seen the trailer, I was like, who the hell is he going to be
Yeah.
in this movie? So I didn't know what his role was.
Yeah.
And so when he showed up, even though I knew he was going to be in it, I was like, what is happening? What is this movie turned into? Where is it going?
See, I had no idea he was even going to be in it. So it was very confusing for me.
I kind of wish I hadn't known that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have been even more. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's definitely the most recognizable person in the movie, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even Bill Skarsgård, I remember watching this so like I said, I watched it with two people. I watched it with my brother and his partner, and she is not at all into horror movies. And it was about, I'm kind of jumping ahead in the plot now, but like half an hour into the movie, we're very acquainted with Bill Skarsgård's character and stuff. And she goes, "Is that the guy who plays Pennywise?" Like that far into the movie. So, so yeah, I would say Justin Long is the big ticket name.
Yeah, for sure. Because he's been around for so long.
Yes, he has.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I first saw Justin Long in Ed, which was an NBC hour-long dramedy about a guy who was an attorney who owned a bowling alley.
Great.
And he had a romance with Julie Bowen from Modern Family.
Justin Long?
The main character did. And then Justin
okay.
Long at the time played one of the high school students. She was a high school teacher. Julie Bowen played a high school teacher. But Justin Long was a high school student who had a crush on the teacher.
Oh.
So he was always trying to romance her.
Yeah.
And I thought he was very cute.
Aww.
And then I think he was in Jeepers Creepers. And,
yeah.
And he dated Drew Barrymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They dated for about 3 years in late 20, whatever we call those, the aughts.
Yeah, the aughts. That's a very aughty couple, I feel like.
Yep. And then, I think she went from Tom Green to Justin Long. I feel like there is a straight line between those two.
Yeah.
And my favorite Justin Long movie is Drag Me to Hell.
I love Drag Me to Hell. You know what movie I know Justin Long from, though? It's Dodgeball.
I forgot he was in that. I used to love that movie.
I loved that movie so much as a teenager, and I feel like he will forever be the dodgeball guy to me.
I love that. Versatile actor.
He really is. Yeah.
And we also have, as you said, Bill Skarsgård. He's the younger Skarsgård to Alexander from True Blood. They're the same height.
Oh, well, I guess actually I'm not surprised, but
I'm surprised just because Alexander Skarsgård always seems like he towers over everyone.
He's very lanky.
He is, and I don't know if they just don't want Bill to seem as tall, so they put people on soapboxes when they're around him or something. I feel like he doesn't have the same towering figure. I could not believe they were the exact same height. They're both 6'4".
Wow. Isn't there a third Skarsgård too?
There's 7 of them.
Oh my God.
I don't know if they're all actors. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård is the father.
Yes. And I think he's pretty short, or maybe it's just my perception of him because his sons are so tall.
Maybe I should look him up. I would not say he is tall either, but watch him
Yeah.
also be 6'4".
Yeah. He's like
I'm gonna
7
look up
feet
his
tall.
height. I mostly know him from Lars von Trier movies.
Mm. Where do I feel like I know him from? Is he in like, let me see. Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård height. He's 6'3".
What? There's no
Yes.
way.
I'm scrolling through this list of Skarsgårds. So Stellan Skarsgård, 6'3". Alexander Skarsgård, 6'4". Bill Skarsgård, 6'4". Sam Skarsgård, 6'5". Gustav Skarsgård, 6'4".
Oh my
And
god.
then there's one girl Skarsgård, Ija, Eija Skarsgård.
Uh-huh.
She's 5'10".
Oh, wow.
So
What a
compared to her
short
brothers,
person. Yeah.
a shrimp,
Right.
yeah,
God.
but still would tower above me.
Yeah. Oh, I know where I know Stellan from is Mamma Mia.
Oh, that's right.
He's in Mamma Mia.
Yeah,
Great
that's
movie.
too sunny and sun-kissed for me, I guess. I only know him from these horrible Lars von Trier movies that he's in. Oh, and he's Baron Harkonnen in the new Dune movies. He's just like
Oh.
in a pile of sludge for most of the
Ooh.
movie.
Wow. Now that's a versatile actor too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed him. I find
Mm.
him interesting. But also
Yeah.
like not very attractive, and the fact that all of his kids are gorgeous. I don't know who their mother is, but
She's probably
genetics.
pulling a lot of weight.
Yeah.
They got his height apparently.
They got his height and
Yeah.
his Hollywood connections. So
Yeah.
they got that.
Yeah.
So the last person is the lead,
Yeah.
and the one I know nothing about, Georgina Campbell.
No idea.
Never seen her before. Went on her Wikipedia page. Didn't even know half the projects she's been in. She's been in a lot of things that I have not
Oh,
seen.
okay.
Like mostly like TV episodes, like guest spots on TV shows.
Oh,
But she's
interesting.
British, so they might be a lot of British shows.
For some reason, that doesn't surprise me, even though she has an American accent in this. She comes off as very British.
She's very good in this movie.
She's really wonderful.
I walked away very impressed with her.
Yeah, she is incredible.
And then our director is Zach Kreger. He started in a sketch comedy troupe, i.e. to me, the worst kind of comedy, but maybe they're good. Do you know them? The Whitest Kids You Know?
Yes, I almost don't want to say it. Well, no, I think a lot of people like it. The one skit I know them very well from is they were incredibly popular when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I think it was them, and maybe I'm gonna make myself sound like a dumbass if it's not them, but I'm like 95% sure. They had this one skit where they would always say, "I'm gonna grape you in the mouth," and it would be grape, and it was a whole thing. And
I'm Googling. Yeah, the Grapist.
yeah, yes. I remember that was very quoted in my high school. And then I think they also had one where it was like it was like a mom moving company, and because they realized that like when a mom thought her child was in danger, she'd get like an adrenaline rush and be able to like move cars and stuff, so they would put the child in danger so that the mom could like pick up a fridge and like help move. That is all I remember.
That's kind of funny.
I genuinely thought they were very funny. So yeah, I do like him a lot.
Well, I think his background kind of explains the shift this movie makes about halfway through.
Yes.
And now with this movie making a butt ton of money, he's a hot commodity. He has a new movie in the works called Weapons, which I can find absolutely nothing about, other than studios were really bidding for it, and a studio acquired it for like $40 million.
Wow.
So
okay.
And I don't even know. I don't even think this has been filmed. It's just like an idea, script, and him. So he's a hot commodity now.
Apparently.
In the horror world. So you saw this before on
Yes.
HBO Max. I saw it in the theater. Have you stayed in an Airbnb before?
I used to stay at Airbnbs a lot, actually. That
Uh-huh.
is primarily how I traveled, I feel like in my 20s. Um, I've had mostly good experiences. I had one particular terrible one. I was staying in a room in an apartment in Florida. And the gentleman renting it out refused to put on a shirt. And and it was like in a room in an apartment, like I said, and there was a balcony right outside of our room, like with a big glass door, except there was also a door to it in the living room. So he would always sit out on the balcony right outside of our door, and there were not curtains on the big glass door. And he'd be out there until like 2 a.m. So we'd be trying to
Ew.
sleep. It was not. He also refused to give us toilet paper. So we had to cross a freeway to go to a Walmart to get toilet paper.
What?
Yeah, and he wasn't even supposed to be doing it, and none of this was listed on the posting, of course not. But he wasn't supposed to be having this Airbnb because it was like a condo actually. So he refused to give us like a spare key or the code to the gate or anything like that, and he was never home except for very late at night. So if we got back to the condo before him, we would have to like sneak in over the gate, like try to jump it, like hope that we could run in behind a car. But, so honestly, I think I would take the situation in this movie over what I went through in that Airbnb because it was awful. I hated
Yeah,
it.
that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever stayed in an Airbnb?
I've stayed in a handful, maybe like a
Mm-hmm.
half dozen, and they've all been fine. I did have the one with the dirty squatty potty in the
Mm.
bathroom,
Oh, that one was
and
based on true experiences.
they both were. And then
Yeah.
my cousin and I stayed in one just for the night because we had an early flight the next day. We were in
Uh-huh.
Memphis, Tennessee, and the room had bunk beds and this pile of weird dolls in the corner.
See, I
So
love
that
that.
was actually a selling point. We loved that.
Yeah.
And except that the bunk bed was tough because the top bunk was so close to the ceiling. I was
Oh,
afraid that if I had a bad dream and like sat up or something, I
yeah.
would just face first into the ceiling. But they were very nice. I accidentally left my cell phone charger there and they mailed it to
Oh,
me. So
wow.
5 stars.
Nice. Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Oh,
loved the creepy dolls.
yeah. No, that sounds like a great stay. I did
Yeah.
stay another one, which I'm just realizing now was, oh no, it was in Atlanta. I stayed with my parents and we just assumed it was a regular Airbnb. We showed up and it was actually a chiropractor's office that he would just like rent out as an Airbnb on the weekends. So there was like a bedroom, but it was just kind of a bed. I mean, it was a bed in a room. And then the rest of it was a chiropractor's office. And so there was
Oh,
like, anatomically correct skeletons and a bidet. My dad was very excited about that. Yeah. So
wow. I
lots
do
of like
love that.
mats on the floor and stuff. Yeah, it was great. I slept on the couch and it was like the best sleep I've ever gotten because it was, very comfortable. Great lumbar support.
I would hope so. You don't want to be on a couch in a chiropractor's office and wake up with a sore neck, unless that's
Exactly.
part of the
Well,
business model.
yeah, actually, he was like, okay, just wait until Monday at 9 a.m. I'll get that straightened out for you.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, but I love Airbnbs usually. I think that they're a fun way to stay in a new place. It's kind of sucks that it's become like very exploitative now, but
Yeah.
I like the idea of an Airbnb.
Yeah. I don't travel as much as I used to, but I did like
Yeah.
it when I first did it. And I stayed a couple places and met some really nice people. So that
Yeah.
you wouldn't normally do if you were in like a chain hotel or something.
Right, right. And it would always be nice too because like you could stay, you know, like right in the city or, right off of a main street, whereas, a lot of hotels would be more, away from the city center. But this
Hmm.
Airbnb is very away from the city
Oh
center.
dear.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Let's get to our plot summary here.
Yes.
So Barbarian. So we begin with the title,
Hmm.
and there's a house in the rain. The score is basically people screaming rhythmically.
Yeah.
This would have been a great movie for me to have the captions on to see how they described it. So our main character, her name is Tess. She shows up at this house on 476 Barbary Lane, and she does not. The key is not in the box. It's one of the Airbnbs. She's supposed to punch in the code. The key is not in the box. So she gets back in the car and she's trying to get in hold of the owner, whoever's leasing out this apartment, this house. While she's in there, the lights start coming on in the house. The score is timed to kind of, it's punctuated with the lights, which is really neat. And so she goes back up and she meets Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård, and he invites her in. And it's a very cute house. We'll of course talk about the house more later, but it's very cute. I liked this house a lot. And nice. He thinks that it would not be wise for her to be out in this neighborhood at night by herself. So, and he's very cute and awkward, but it's still an odd situation.
Yeah.
And she's trying to find any sort of alternate arrangement here because they've realized they've both booked this place through different apps.
Yeah.
They both have a confirmation. There's been some sort of mix up, and there's a medical convention in town. So everything is booked. She can't find an alternative. So he invites her to stay. He's like, I'll sleep on the couch. You can stay in the room. We'll figure this out tomorrow. She's uneasy, as you would be in this situation, because who knows who this guy is. He goes to bring in her luggage and she goes through his wallet and gets a picture of his ID and everything. So she's trying to cover all her bases here. But they get to know each other in this almost kind of like meet cute romantic comedy sort of way. The weirdness of it starts to de-escalate and the tension because he learns she's in town for a job interview with a documentary filmmaker who's making a movie about artist collectives in Detroit. I don't think I'd mentioned that we're in Detroit.
Yes.
And he is actually the founder of some sort of artist collective, and they're looking for a space. And he very cutely shows her how to put the duvet back in the duvet cover after,
I love
after the washing machine.
Yeah.
Very charming. But then this is a creepy movie. So she goes to bed and her door opens while she's sleeping. She closes the bedroom door and it opens and we hear this weird squealing noise in the hallway. And she gets up and we can hear Keith making these noises. He's having some sort of night terror. And it's really creepy. So she wakes him up and he's like in this disoriented, what the fuck are you doing phase? And he swears he did not open her door.
Also, his reaction to being woken up is actually pretty hilarious. I just love him just like, what the fuck do you mean I was talking or whatever like that. He is so charming. I think it was at that point, like even up until that point, I was like, this guy's suspicious. It was when she woke him up and he like flipped out that I was like, I love this man.
He's so cute. Yeah, I really like him in this. So she goes back into her room. She locks the door, and then we're up at the next morning. Yeah. So she gets up. She leaves the key in the box because now they have to share this key. He's not there. And she steps out, and we see the neighborhood that they're staying in the daylight for the first time, and it is. Shambles is not even describing it.
I love that scene so much because to me that was one of the more like terrifying. I have a great fear of like, and I guess it kind of ties in with this a little bit, but also keep in mind, like I'm a white woman from the suburbs of Massachusetts. So like I would not know what it's like to live in a community like this, in a town like this. But I have like a great fear of like falling asleep and waking up somewhere where I don't know like where I am. And so to me, this is sort of like a realistic version of that, of like falling asleep and not necessarily realizing where you are. It was such a good scene though. It's done so well. The music is so creepy. It was like one of the most unsettling things I've seen in a horror movie.
It's a great reveal.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to imagine places looking like that. Just because,
Yeah.
again, just from the bubble that I live in.
Right. It looks almost like, like a natural disaster moved through there.
Mm.
And then also, we'll get into it later when you talk about sort of other aspects of the movie, but you do get glimpses of this neighborhood when it was in its heyday. And it's so wild like that. I think we talked about this in like Crimson Peak or one of those movies where I'm always so surprised at the rate that like buildings decay. And
Oh, yes.
I like never believe it. And then, and obviously there are probably some liberties taken with, movies and things, but I feel like things do really decay and get overgrown way faster than I thought they do, like way faster. So that's how I feel about this is I'm like, whoa, I feel like that happened in a really short amount of time, but maybe it just does.
Yeah, if it's absolutely neglected.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about waking up somewhere, once I
Mm.
drove across the entire state of Texas,
Ooh.
which was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And you get outside of like Fort Worth, and there's this just sign that says like El Paso, 560 miles. And I'm like, is
Yeah.
there anything between here and there? Anything?
Yeah.
The answer is basically no. And I was helping a friend move across the country. So it was, I don't know, midnight when we get to El Paso.
Uh-huh.
And he had a friend who lived there. So we're staying with this friend of his. And yeah, I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh, I'm in the desert now. Like I didn't click with me that like, oh, I was in a city in the morning.
Yes.
And, we're driving. And there's like cows and oil fields and greenery. And then I wake up and I am in the middle of the desert. It was so disorienting.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't think I could handle that.
And we were on a military base in the middle of the desert. So not only am I in the middle of the desert, but I walk out and there's just like all these rows of identical houses.
Oh my God.
It was really freaky. I was like, we've got to get out of here.
Yeah, right. Something's not right here.
We've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So Tess also should get out of here, but she doesn't. She has her job interview. It goes very well with this documentary filmmaker who we never see again.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they give her a role. Like I'm supposed to even see the interview because it's so unimpactful.
Yes, I will say that is a very strange part. I don't know if it's like, I feel like at least I can understand the scene in the sense that like you have sort of this moment of like, I know horror movies do it a lot where you have this moment of the main character like getting away, quote unquote, like they're out of sort of the danger, the creepy house, it's gives you that like moment of levity, but yeah, there isn't really a whole lot of reason for it.
No, we never come back to this.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
Mm-mm.
So she goes back to the house and she's trying to get in, and this guy starts running towards her from the distance. Very creepy the way it's filmed too, because you can kind of see this spot in the background.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing what's going on around the same time she does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's desperately trying to get the code in and get this key out and get into the house.
Yep.
And she gets in the house and the guy's just banging on the door and saying, "Hey, little girl, come out that house." Which
is, yeah.
I feel like as a grown woman, you never want to be called little girl by a man banging on the door.
No, I would not. I'd go,
no.
Oh, you think I'm petite? Oh, thank you.
You can't sweet talk me out of here, sir.
Yeah, right.
So she calls 911. They will not send anyone.
No. This
is the first of like this being kind of like an ACAB movie, or at least a DCAB movie. All Detroit cops are bastards because the running theme of this movie is that the Detroit cops are absolutely completely fucking useless.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean, though, you could also look at it as, and I am not a cop apologist or anything, but you have to imagine like they see a lot of shit in Detroit. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Like I work at a mid-size library in an urban area, and there are times when maybe I should have called the police and I didn't, because I'm just like, you know what? We've seen weirder, and I don't
That's
want to make
true.
this my problem. Now,
That's true.
I'm also a librarian. I'm not tasked
You
with.
are not the police.
I am not the police. I am not tasked with keeping
Not yet.
communities.
Not yet. The
Yeah.
way that you're a social worker,
Yeah.
you're, an information
Right.
clerk,
Yeah.
eventually librarians will be cops, but
Right. Yeah. But as
we'll all
long
be
as they're not
deputized
hurting
and
someone, I'm like, you know what? You do you over there. So
just, just let it roll.
yeah. But that is not the attitude a cop should have.
No, I know. And that's the thing. It's so
Yeah.
shocking because they're just like, we don't have any units that we can send
Right.
out there.
And I'm pretty sure like 911 like hangs up on her, which like
Yeah.
I don't even know 911 I mean, I guess it makes sense that they have that ability, but it's like you feel like they shouldn't, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
It really adds to the hopelessness of the situation. We
Yes.
realize no matter what's going to happen, she's not going to get any help.
Yeah.
So she goes to the bathroom and there's no toilet paper. So she has to go down to the basement, and the door, she gets locked in the basement.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a stressful scene.
Oh, I was looking up recently, talking with a coworker about how the fear of being trapped, which is different than claustrophobia, because I actually don't mind like a small space as long as I know I can get out of it.
Oh yeah, like something cozy.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
when
used
I'm
to hang out
really
in my closet. Yeah.
when I'm really panicked, I go in a closet or something like that. I like to be confined. But yeah, it's the fear of being trapped, no matter the size of the space, that really gets me. So yeah, this scene would both really freak me out and also be kind of like my dream, because I've always wanted to find a secret passage.
Yes. Oh my God. I know. I've said before, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, I would be a terrible, terrible horror movie protagonist. I am the person who would go down the tunnel.
Oh, for sure. I would do exactly what she does in this situation.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes this so scary to me, is because I'm right there with her.
Yes. Yeah. So she finds this rope that's coming out of a hole in the wall, and she pulls it, and it starts to open this hidden door in the room that goes down this dark hallway. We get a great shot of her just saying nope, and then cut to her on the stairs. Best use of the word nope in the year 2022.
Yeah.
For me.
You are, I would agree with that. I liked nope more than you, but I would still agree with you that is a great usage.
I was like, this movie took nope from nope.
And also directed by a comedy sketch group guy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the new horror people,
Apparently.
I guess.
Yeah, and they've reclaimed the word nope.
They've reclaimed the word nope. So she's down there. We don't know how long. So she decides that she's going to investigate anyway. And she very cleverly gets a mirror and reflects the light down the hallway. And she can see a doorknob down there. So she goes down, she opens up this door, and it's just this creepy snuff film room.
Yeah.
There's a camera on a tripod, a mattress, a bucket, and a bloody handprint on the wall.
Right. Just so stereotypical. Like it feels like a horror what's it called? A haunted house, like a Halloween haunted house set piece.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so this is where I would be like, okay, I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And again, she's the same way. She can hear Keith coming in upstairs. So she manages to get him the key through like the little basement window.
Right.
And she wants to leave, but like he wants to see this room for himself.
Yeah.
I'm like, sir.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe he because maybe being in this weird art collective, like maybe that's part of like, he's like, oh.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I would have like FOMO. Like I'd be like, oh, you got to see it and I don't. I want to go see it. Like,
yeah, I might go see it too for him. He goes further though, which is I think
he does.
which is his fatal flaw.
Yeah, but also this is all taking place during the day too, which I think would make me
That's
a lot
true.
braver. Like I like I said, I know that I would be a terrible person in a horror movie because I would probably do what he does.
Yeah, I do go towards the weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like too, like in my head, I would see that room and I'd go, that is so stereotypically scary. They had to have like set that up. So maybe there's something down the hallway they don't want me to get to, and I want to get to that. I'd be like, oh,
Okay.
it's a mind game. And again, that's why I would die.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
That
what
is
happens to poor Keith.
yes. Yeah. Which so kind of in between that, there's the part where she's standing on the stairs yelling for him, and she's
Uh,
like, it feels like such a long scene. And I think I told you the first time I watched this movie, I actually had to turn it off at this point because that scene in particular was giving me so much anxiety. Like
yeah.
I never have to stop horror movies because I'm too scared. And I wouldn't even say it was like terror, it was just anxiety. That is how I felt for
Mhm.
this whole scene.
This is very good. Like this is like top-notch horror movie tension to me. I
Yes.
really loved this from the point she gets locked in the basement
Yeah.
to the point where we're going to take this sharp left turn.
Yes.
But yeah, cuz he disappears. She wants to leave,
Mhm.
but he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And so she starts to go down there, and as you said, she's screaming his name, getting increasingly more panicked
Yeah.
because as far as she knows, it's just that one room. Why isn't he answering her?
Yeah.
But then she goes down, finds another door that then
Mhm.
leads into this tunnel that goes deep
Yeah.
underground.
Very steep stairs.
Steep stairs. You hear him screaming, "Help me!"
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, and not in like because you're kind of. I mean, throughout this whole movie, you're kind of up to this point. You're like, is he creepy? Is he not?
Yeah.
You know.
I
But once
thought
this happens, like you can hear in his voice, like this is
yes.
not a
Yeah.
ploy.
This actually though it's an interesting thing though, because again, I was watching this with my brother and his partner, and so like I mentioned, she's not a horror movie person. So at this point, like this point exactly in the movie, she actually asked, because she's one of those people who will try to guess the plot of the movie, which kind of drives me insane, but like it makes for great podcast fodder. So thank you. But she asked, she was like, oh, is it like a sex trafficking ring thing? And if I hadn't seen the movie before that, I would be like, that's actually not a bad guess. Like maybe
That's
he's
actually
luring
pretty
her
good.
down here for, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, I guess there are people who were still doubting him at this point. And I thought that would be a very interesting movie to make as well.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
true.
actually, oh, sorry, I was going to say that's actually, like I mentioned, I went into this movie kind of the opposite of you. I thought that this movie was actually going to be just like a serial killer, kidnapping kind of thing. Like, because I knew very little about this movie. I only knew that it was two people show up at the same Airbnb, and one of them is Pennywise. So
Recipe for disaster.
Exactly. I assumed it was going to be he was going to be the bad guy, serial killer or something. So, no, but I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No, well, going to what the soon to be sister-in-law said.
Yeah.
They're cages. She goes down this tunnel.
Yeah.
There's cages down
Yes.
there. She's like, what the fuck is going on?
Mhm.
And as she gets closer, you hear him screaming more.
Mhm.
And then the way he
Oh.
comes crawling out of the dark
Yes.
towards her is so
Uh-huh.
freaky.
And he's, like,
they
so
showed that
pale.
in the trailer, and it still
Oh.
scared me in the
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, see, I didn't even see that in the trailer. And oh my God, he's just like he's a creepy dude. They knew what they were doing when they cast him.
It's very good
He's
casting.
so pale. His eyes were so buggy. Oh,
Mhm.
horrifying. Yeah.
He says someone
Yeah.
has bit him,
Uh-huh.
and she's trying to get him to come out of this tunnel, but he doesn't want to go back that way because he says that's where this thing is. And then
Mhm.
this like screeching monster comes out of the dark
Mhm.
and splatters his head against the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then boom, we cut to Justin Long in
Yep.
a convertible.
Yeah. Which, again, I didn't even know Justin Long was in this. So I just remember the first time seeing this movie and being like, what the fuck? Like, so
Where are
confused.
we?
What
Yeah.
is happening? And so this is kind of where it was fun watching it with two other people, because so the first time I watched it, I had a very like jaw on the floor kind of reaction to this part. My brother knew Justin Long was in it, and so he wasn't as surprised, and I would say he isn't really a horror movie person, but in the sense that like he just doesn't really care for them. So like for him it just wasn't really all that shocking. And then my brother's girlfriend, she didn't know who Justin Long was. So
What?
instead of being
Where's
like, oh
she
my God,
been?
what is, I know. So instead of her being like, oh my God, what is going on? She was just like, who is that? And I was like, no, it needs to be, you need to be more shocked. So very different reactions from all of us.
That's so funny.
Yeah. No idea who Justin Long is.
I can't even fathom that. I don't
Yeah.
know. He just seems, it's so weird that he seems so famous to me, but he does.
Right. Oh, but you know what? Actually, she did know who he was after I pointed out that he was in New Girl, in that Zooey Deschanel show.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Justin Long. Everyone has to know him from something. He does so much.
He's been around for so long. Like his career has been over 20 years at this point.
I know. Yeah.
Which is bananas.
Yes. But here he is in a convertible.
Here he is in a convertible. It's been 47 minutes, which is almost the exact halfway point in the movie. He's an actor. His name is AJ. He's being accused by another actor of rape, and his agents are telling him that this is going to be in the Hollywood Reporter. And we will slowly learn that he probably did do it. So he's not the hero of this story by any means. He's wearing a Grillo's Pickles hat, which is a thing that I've heard of, but like
oh my God. I think that was my review on Letterboxd for this, which was, you know how in movies, like I remember it was a big thing when Knives Out came out, you could tell who the bad guy is because you can't use an iPhone. Apple won't let the bad guy use Apple products. I feel like the same rule should apply to Grillo's Pickles merchandise, because Grillo's is perfect in my mind.
Okay.
Their half sour pickle, the best pickle on the market.
I've never had these pickles.
They're so good. Actually, if you go to the Friendly Toast, there's a couple locations around New England. They serve Grillo pickles.
Oh.
Yeah.
And go and just get a pickle.
Yeah. I mean, it comes with most sandwiches and stuff. And you can also get a big old jar of them at Costco.
I'll need a membership just for the pickles.
Yeah, but you can't get half sour. I could do a whole podcast episode on Grillo's pickles. So
we'll have a special episode on pickles.
Perfect.
There are Utz Grillo's pickles flavored chips.
Yes.
And I love pickle flavored potato chips. So I'll have to track those down.
Those are really good too. Yeah.
Well, maybe Justin Long as a rapist will sell me on Grillo's pickles. So So he has his little pickle hat on, and his money manager tells him that he'll be broke in about 3 months from legal defense for this accusation. And this is when we start to realize who this person is. So he is the owner of the house on 476 Barbary Street. He has a property management company that rents it out through Airbnb, and he just sits back and collects the money. So he flies out there because he's going to sell this house and try to liquidate his assets. So he realizes that there's like suitcases there, and he wonders if there's people staying there.
Yeah.
And the way the property management company works is that they only clean the place before the next tenant comes in. And since it hasn't been rented out again, all their stuff is still there. So he's trying to figure out who these people are. He's going through their suitcases. One of them has a Jane Eyre book in the suitcase. So there's a
Yeah.
gothic
Look at
callback
that.
right there. So he goes out with a friend of his, who he calls the F slur, just like Matt Damon and his buddies. And so he admits to this friend that this, is totally consensual between him and this actress. She just took a bit of convincing before they did it, and he's very persistent. So he's the fucking eye of the tiger, he says. So he was able to just convince her to do it, and then it was completely consensual. So he's really gross.
Yeah, which I feel like people have made the point before about the casting of Justin Long as this like dirtbag, and then Mr. Pennywise as sort of the good cute guy, and how it goes against their like typecasting. But I also think a huge part of it is just they had the script and they were like, wow, this guy is just a huge piece of shit. We have to get someone semi-likable in this role to sell this to audiences.
Yep.
And they were like, Paul Rudd's busy. Let's get Justin Long.
Paul Rudd.
I feel like that's what they had to do.
Yeah, no, because we spend the entire rest of the movie with him.
Yeah.
He is now the main character of this movie.
Yes.
Which is so strange. So he then calls the woman and leaves her this desperate, drunk message on the phone. So the next day, he hears this noise coming from the basement. So he decides to go investigate with this puny little steak knife and a flashlight. And he starts to find the rooms where that Tess had found.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can sell this house for more now. So he has his tape measure and he's like measuring the rooms, and he's Googling like, do basement count as square footage?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God. I
genuinely love this part. Like this is me like making a Sims house. Like I'm like, does this still count as a micro home if I have like a basement? I love this part. It's even though, and that's what too, I'm sorry to keep like, I guess bringing this up. Like, I think it was such a good move casting Justin Long, because he has these moments of like, wow, he is just such a goofball. Like, he's is this guy a piece of shit, but he is a goofball.
I know. He's just a goofy bro.
Goofy bro who's a load of shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically his greed that will end up getting him. Well, he'll get him what he gets at the end of the movie. So, because he follows this tape measure all the way down those stairs and starts to see the cages and everything. And he goes further than we did with Tess and Keith, and he finds this makeshift bedroom down there that has a TV with the breastfeeding video playing on it. And he's wondering what this is when the tape measure gets yanked down the hall. So he's running and he falls down this pit. And then now it's Tess's turn to come out of the dark. And then we get this flashback. Now we're 40 years in the past. They're playing Asia's song, Heat of the Moment. It's the heat of the moment, which I really only know from Rock of Ages. All this 80s music I only know from Rock of Ages. And we see this older white man leaving the house, the Barbary Lane house, which looks the same as it does in present day. But now all the other houses are not falling apart. Their windows are intact and the cars have tires on them. And he has a neighbor that he talks to. And he gets in his car and he goes to the grocery store and he buys weird serial killery shit, like plastic sheets and duct tape. And the clerk is just like, oh, because he says he's having a baby. And which creepily might actually be true at some point. But she's just like, oh, yeah, you're going to need this and this. And, she just happily gives him all this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think it's just because he says it's like a home birth. She's like, oh, how how fun.
Yeah, no midwife, just
Yep.
them, the woman, and some plastic sheets so we don't
Yep.
stain the carpet
That's all you
with
need.
amniotic fluid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's because of the I knew this movie gets into kind of like the economics and stuff like that is kind of like an underlying theme of this, and
Right.
the white flight and then the economic decline of Detroit. But in my second rewatch, I was just thinking, in the year of our Lord 2023, I can't afford to be a serial killer. Like if I wanted to be a serial killer, like I couldn't bankroll that. Like you need another property. Like you need to somehow fund the digging of tunnels under your house somehow.
Yes.
And then to just buy all these supplies at the grocery store.
Absolutely. Well,
with inflation the way it is. Can you imagine how expensive plastic sheets would be today?
Yeah. You need time off of work. Oh my God.
How does this guy find the time to kill these people?
Actually, one of my favorite conversations I ever had was I watched what is it called, the Ethan Hawke one, Black Phone, with my brother. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen Black Phone, and I know this isn't the podcast for it, but I'm going to give you a spoiler for the end of the movie.
Ooh, please.
The have you seen it?
No, spoil me.
Oh, okay. It's fine. It's a fine movie. But anyways, the sort of twist at the end is that the killer has two houses. So it's like, he shows up at one house and it's the cops show up at one house and it's fine. No one's there dying, but it's because he has a second house. And the guy is also a magician. And so I said to my brother, how does this magician afford two homes? And he said, well, it was the 70s. I said, well, damn, I guess you're right. But it's true.
Yes, no, it is true.
The taxes alone. Come on.
I know. This movie is like this 1982 flashback is like the height of Reaganomics. This white man is able to kill whoever he wants and still own a home.
Right. Yeah.
And still live in it.
That's
what I find out.
Yeah, that's why
no one even put him in a nursing home. He still gets to live in his home.
Right. That's why there aren't really serial killers right now, because we're in a recession.
It's too economically difficult to be a serial killer.
Yeah.
There's got to be research on this.
There has to be. And if not, I think you need to work on it, because it has to be.
This is why I should be in academia. So I can do these research projects.
Perfect.
So we see this man. He then follows a woman to her house. Mm-hmm. He disguises himself as a utility worker, and he goes in to investigate the house and unlocks the bathroom window. So we know what his plan is going to be. And we see him go back home. He has this brief chat with his neighbor. We learn that all the white people are leaving Detroit, as they did. Mm-hmm. And we then, I think we hear the screaming, maybe, that we know there's a woman in the basement at this point too, as he goes in. So then we flash back to the present, and we're in this pit. There's a grate above, and Tess is trying to tell AJ not to get upset. We know she's been down there for, I don't know, a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah, a while.
Like a while, and she's not been killed, so that's a good thing for her.
Good job, Tess. Yeah.
And she's trying to calm him down, and it's like the worst person you want to be stuck in a pit with, because he's freaking out.
God, that I would rather be alone in this pit dealing with what I have to deal with than be in there with him, because oh my God.
Yeah, and your survival rate would be higher because he's going to get the both of them killed, most likely.
Right. Yeah, he's being like a little bitch.
He has no chill with this scenario and cannot get his shit under control. And it's interesting that it's the two men in the movie who freak the fuck out. And Tess is the one who, the two white guys, and Tess is the one who is able to adapt to this situation and kind of get her way through it, do what needs to be done to survive.
Yeah. Interesting.
So this creature, we don't really know what this thing is yet, comes back, and she's trying to feed them with a baby bottle, and it's got these gross hairs on the nipple of the baby bottle. And Tess drinks from the bottle and she's
Yeah.
trying to get AJ to drink it. And she says she just wants you to be her baby. That's all
Yeah.
she wants. And he won't do it. So she jumps down into this pit
Yes.
and Tess lets herself be petted.
Yeah.
The credits, they call her the mother, this monster.
Mm.
So, but AJ gets dragged away to the bedroom where that breastfeeding video was playing. And Tess manages to, since she doesn't close the grate, Tess manages to scramble her way out of this pit while AJ is being breastfed by the mother in the which is so gross, but so funny because we know he deserves it by this point.
Right. Yeah. Right. You know, and if he had just taken the bottle, what? He's too good for the bottle? God.
No, I know. And so she sees this happening and then keeps going, but she trips on the tape measure,
Yeah.
which triggers the mothers to chase her. But Tess manages to break out of the basement window. And that guy who called her little girl earlier pulls her out, and turns out he was just trying to warn her.
Yeah.
So, dude, like, bad way to do that. Why don't you tell her there's a monster in the basement?
Yes, right. The house is not safe. Not just
Like,
get out of here. That house,
little girl.
Yeah.
Don't go in that house, little girl. Like, tell her there's a monster in the basement.
Right.
Anyway, this guy's communication is not his strong suit, because he also just tells her she's not the worst thing down there. Tell her what's down there.
What? Why are you literally speaking in riddles?
This guy is so cryptic.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what happens when you live in a drain pipe for who knows how long, because we'll see him later on. But Tess wants to go back for AJ and doesn't want to leave him down there. Very noble.
Yeah.
And this guy,
she has a soft spot for white men, for goofy, lanky white men, which, I mean,
they can't take care of themselves.
Me too, girl. Me too. I get it.
It's kind of her own mother instincts contrasting with the mother monster.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that's a good take on it.
Because they're helpless.
Yeah. They're basically children.
They really are. Well, they are. They really are.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, AJ more so, we don't get to know poor Keith enough, but he does have his little nightmares.
Yeah,
like a little baby.
Oh, poor Keith.
Yeah. Oh. So she goes to the police, who think she's crazy.
Yeah.
And I had to write down what she said. She says, "I'm not a crackhead. I am not a crazy person. I am a woman who has been held prisoner and escaped, and there's a man in serious danger." And because they obviously think she's crazy, but the fact that there's no follow-up is just what really boggles my mind here. And so they won't even go in the house, right? Because it's not the homeowner.
Yes.
It's just like, whatever. So she gets in her car and she drives the car through the house. And the woman comes out of the house because she drives it into the mother and into the house and like kind of squishes her against the garage door.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the basement, AJ has found the older serial killer / rapist.
Yes.
And all of his tapes, videotapes from that creepy room.
Yeah.
They have terrible labels on them, like "Won't Stop Crying" and "Asian Biter."
Oof.
Like, they're all terrible.
I didn't even notice a lot of those little details.
Oh, I was trying to read them.
Oh.
But it's kind of like, you kind of sit there and you're like, this is like would-be AJ 40 years ago.
Right? Yeah.
You know, this white guy who's able to get away with whatever he wants and has the means to do it.
Interesting.
So the older guy ends up shooting himself, and AJ gets the gun and is trying to escape. While he's trying to escape, Tess shows up and he shoots her.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh, fuck. I remember watching this in the theater and I was like, you're fucking kidding me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Because I really thought he'd killed her at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long this movie is. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And she survives this, but she's bleeding. And so he helps her get out of the house, and they're going to go to where that man lives in the shadow of a water tower down the street. And so he gets her down there, and that's when the guy kind of gives us the backstory, and we learn that she is like the inbred offspring of one of his rape/murder victims. So in a way, she is also both the victim and the monster of the movie.
Yeah.
Herself, this complicated horror figure.
Yeah.
And AJ wants to get Tess to the hospital, and the guy's like, you can't go out at night. You know, she roams the area at night.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do you know she can't get in here? And he says, well, I've been living here 15 years and she ain't never got in this motherfucker. And then just at that moment, she busts in through the wall, rips off his arm, and beats him to death with his own arm. Like, just like, oh my God.
Yeah. She's strong.
She's very strong.
Because she gets hit by a car. She's pinned against a wall, which I just know, like, if I lived in a basement for 40 years or however old she is, I'd be a little weakling. I didn't see any workout equipment, I didn't see any weights,
No. And what is she eating?
Yeah, what is she eating?
And is she lactating? Is she lactating? Is the milk breast milk? What is happening?
And also, like, kind of similar, I guess maybe it's like an allegory for it, but like similar to the houses, like, it seems like he didn't have enough time to do, I'm sorry, this is like kind of gross, I guess, but like enough cycles of inbreeding to get someone, I mean, the British royalty is mostly inbred, and I don't think most of them are like that. So she's like, they may have.
It was really just like two. Yeah. It could have only been like 2 or 3 at the most.
Right.
Like, she would still look at like Prince William at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So she's a very strange, but I almost appreciate that they don't really explain it in some ways. She's just like this monster. Like, sure, why not?
Just go wild. Did you ever watch the X-Files?
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're gonna bring up.
There was this infamous band episode from the X-Files in the 90s where there was this group of inbred family that lived in a shack. Yeah. And their mother had no arms or legs.
Yes.
And they kept her. Yes, they kept her on like a little drawer under the bed.
Yes.
And they'd bring her out and like all have sex with her and like it was so gross.
Yeah. I watched that on Easter with my family.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah, it was a really nice family memory. I'll never forget it. So
was it on? Was it just like on TV?
It was on TV. This wasn't like that long ago though. I mean, it definitely was not like when it was premiering. It was like, I don't know, maybe like somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. It was on a television channel, but it wasn't like, when it came out. But yeah, I just remembered someone threw it on during Easter. We were all, fed up with a nice ham dinner, and we watched
Yum.
The Benders or whatever it was called. It was great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a big deal in the X-Files in the 90s. I just thought about that with the inbreeding.
Yeah.
So she has busted into this area. AJ runs like a little bitch. Tess, who is still suffering from a gunshot wound, has to follow him. And so they're going up this water tower to try to escape. AJ drops the gun, which falls off the water tower. He can't even shoot the woman that is pursuing them.
Not that he could anyways, because he's a dumbass and he only shoots the wrong people.
He would have missed.
He would have
shot her again.
Yeah.
So he ends up, to save himself, he throws Tess off the water tower.
Yeah. It seems like too, there's like going to be a moment where he redeems himself. And then of course he doesn't.
Nope. He gets even worse.
Yep.
And the woman who she believes Tess to be her baby, jumps off the water tower after her.
Mm-mm.
And AJ goes back down the tower, and we see them kind of in like a heap on the pavement. Tess has somehow survived this fall.
Yeah.
I guess the woman must have like grabbed her, and then they kind of rotated and she landed on top of her.
Yeah.
So like a good mother, she saved her daughter.
Yeah. Sweet.
And AJ tries to make an excuse for his behavior. He says that he had no choice. She was going to kill us both, and you just started to slip.
Ugh.
And at that point, the mother gets up. She grabs AJ by the head,
Uh-huh.
pokes his eyes out with her thumbs, and just like rips his head in half.
Yeah.
So good.
It's what he deserves.
What he deserves. And then Tess shoots her. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And because Tess knows this woman is not like actively, a terrible thing, but what choice does she have?
Yeah.
So she kills her, and then they play Be My Little Baby, the end.
Yeah. Be my baby. It's so cute. I love it.
Which I feel like I know that from maybe Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
So yeah, did we miss anything? That's our plot summary.
I don't think so. I think that
Right.
that just about wraps it up.
Excellent. So we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back with our Gothic recap, and we'll decide, is this Gothic? All right, we ghosties, we're back with our Gothic recap. So every Gothic film has 4 elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. Our girl is Tess.
Yes.
What do we think about her? She's great.
I love her. She's a smart cookie.
Mhm.
She, I joked that I would do what Keith does in the situation. I think I would do what Tess does. That's maybe a humble brag on my part, because I think she's really smart.
Would you go down into the basement after Keith went down there and disappeared?
Yeah.
You would? Yeah, that's very noble of you.
I would grab a weapon, though. I don't think she had a weapon. I would grab at least a knife.
Yeah.
Something.
I don't think I would.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I'd be like, sorry, dude.
Yeah. It's funny because I've had this conversation with someone who used to work with me, and she is very does not like horror movies. And because we were talking about it, because one time she was afraid that someone was trying to break into her house. And so I told her, in that situation, I would grab a knife and make sure I had a knife on me. And she said that she wouldn't even do that because she would literally rather be killed than have to use a knife on someone.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'm all for someone comes at me, I will stab them. I will do it. So
I think that's appropriate. I
yeah.
rarely am in that type of situation. I guess I'm lucky, but I feel like I reach for a blunt object. Like I used to when I was gay and growing up in Mississippi, and honestly, I had a very lucky considering the environment. But if ever I was concerned, I did keep a baseball bat.
Okay.
That was my weapon of choice.
Yeah. No, I usually have some sort of pocket knife near me or something. If I'm I go camping and hiking by myself a lot. It's usually,
yeah.
Yeah. It's usually a pocket knife or something.
Maybe I should bring the baseball bat back.
I honestly would love to see you walking down the street with a baseball bat. Next time you check into an Airbnb, make sure you bring a baseball bat.
I just might.
I really like this idea.
The one I had was it was like an aluminum bat. It had some heft to it. I could swing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
See, I don't know that anyone really played baseball. I played softball, actually, and a softball bat is pretty serious.
Oh, I bet.
I think more accessible to me would only be wiffle ball bats. So those
the
are
plastic one.
A whole lot, yeah.
A plastic bat, a Nerf bat.
Doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'll bring the baseball bat just in case when next
Yeah.
time I'm at an Airbnb.
That's a good idea. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, Tess, I really like her as a character. She seems well-rounded. And yeah, I think she's a tough little smart cookie.
Yeah, she's good. I feel like she does fit into a lot of our gothic tropes where she's
Mm.
independent.
Yep.
She's there on a job interview.
Yeah.
She's not there for love, but if this were a different type of movie, maybe she would find it.
Yes.
Because they do have a cute little relationship that's starting to form before things go off the rails.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's very resourceful. She's able to get out of this situation. She's the one person that survives.
Yes. Yeah. And in a way, she's almost like, you mentioned it with the job interview, but she's also almost like lured into the house because there was a point where she wasn't going to stay at the house. She kind of, fate kind of unfortunately puts her there.
Yes.
Mhm.
So our guy, I'm going to suggest is AJ.
Mhm.
And that's because often in the films we talk about, the guy is the one who lures the girl to the house, either willingly or unwillingly.
Yeah.
And since it's his house,
Yes. Yeah.
and he was so unaware that there was a serial killer / sex dungeon in this property that he was renting out.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose that he is the guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, obviously, I think the other choice would be Keith, but he's as much of, you could even argue that he is a girl in, our scenarios because he ends up at this house and meets a unfortunate fate, and so Keith
That's
has
true.
that a little bit more of like that romantic aspect, but Keith is kind of like the Charlie Hunnam of this movie. In regards to Crimson Peak, he's this little puppy dog.
He
Goofball
is. He's our
who just
romantic
gets-
rival.
Yeah, he just gets like wrapped up in it. Like, he wasn't, he's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Poor guy. So
I know. I feel bad for him out of everybody in this movie.
I know. Yeah, he's just kind of a doofus, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think AJ would be, in our definition, the guy.
And a lot of times we're kind of glad when the guy dies. And this and this movie it fits into that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So our house is the cute little house on Barbary Lane.
Yes.
Sounds like a sitcom location.
It does. Yeah.
But I just read that it was filmed in Bulgaria.
I can't believe that. That's so wild to me.
My geography is so bad. I do not know where Bulgaria is. I'm assuming it's like Eastern European.
Yeah. I think of it a lot in terms of like Transylvania, like vampires and mountains and stuff. Yeah.
And they must have very good tax breaks for filming locations.
Yeah.
And so this house was it was built. It's not like they found this cute house in Detroit. They built it, and they built the whole street to film on. So the other houses are just like fronts, little facades for it, like when you see the Golden Girls house or whatever, and it's just like a cardboard cutout of a house.
Yeah.
They did do some exterior shots in Detroit, but all of the filming was done on these sets that they made, and each floor had its own set on like a stage.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, this house definitely does not, does not give you the gothic grandeur that a lot of our gothic houses do. It's,
No, it's cute. It's got this open floor plan.
Yeah.
It has wood floors.
Yep. It has a cute...
I feel like... go on.
Oh, I was going to say it has a cute like washer machine that does like the little ding ding when the the laundry's done. You wouldn't see that in Crimson Peak.
No, I love an in-unit laundry.
Yep.
And I feel like when they have the flashback, it looks like the house might have been a little different. So there's been some updating. I feel like they like knocked a wall down or something to create this open concept, which is kind of cool. We get to see that the house evolved a little bit.
Right. It's very though like how you expect someone to set up an Airbnb. Like, I don't know about you. My mom is a huge HGTV fan.
Oh,
And so,
okay.
I'm seeing the open floors, I'm seeing the, linoleum floors, the, plain white walls.
Yeah.
It's got Chip and Joanna Gaines all over it.
They love knocking down walls on HGTV. I don't
They
watch them,
do.
but I feel like it's always somebody with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, they're always knocking down walls. They're always putting up like shiplap, you know. So, but they did not remodel the basement.
No, they didn't. They didn't even know half the basement was there.
Yep. Yep.
That
So,
boggles my mind. It
yeah.
also like I mean, growing I never lived anywhere where like a house was remodeled or
Mm,
anything. So I think
yeah.
I was very old before I learned like what? You can like knock down a wall? Like that just
Yeah.
seemed like to me such a foreign concept that you can
Yeah.
do these things.
Yes.
To
At
me a
my
house is just such a static fixture.
See, at my first house that I lived in with my family, like my childhood home, um, we had a basement and we actually remodeled. I'm saying I was like 6 at the time, so I did nothing. Um, but my family remodeled it because we had outgrown the house. I have a brother, and it was only a 2-bedroom house. So they remodeled it and they actually put a wall up in the middle of the basement and made one side a bedroom for him.
Oh.
The only problem is that the basement would flood constantly because it was a basement. So no, I'm very familiar with the troubles of remodeling a basement. So they
Wow.
didn't even try. Maybe it floods down there. Actually, they did kind of try because that guy has his own room. So
Yeah, like there's a lot of logistics that I don't quite
yeah,
understand how they worked this out.
right. Like, why did he even go in that room? I'm not really
Hmm.
sure. But again, it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you're almost thankful that they don't explain it.
They don't need to, exactly. No, it
Yeah,
would be worse if they did. I hate an over
yeah,
explanation of the movie because I haven't even thought about these questions until just now. Otherwise, I just
right.
enjoyed the movie for what it is.
Exactly. And because
Hmm.
even the flashback scene, I enjoyed that it wasn't necessarily there to explain a lot. It was more just there to set up what the neighborhood used to look like. And I
Hmm.
mean, there was some like explanation, like with him going to the woman's house and unlocking the window. Felt like a lot of that could have been left out, but it was at least interesting to see,
Hmm.
because you got an idea of how the house evolved.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It did a lot in a short span of time.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
manages to elaborate on a lot of different concepts, the setting, the characters,
Hmm.
the themes, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our haunt is, I guess we would say the mother on the surface,
Yeah.
since she's this monster in the basement, but she, I feel like, is indicative of like the white flight out of Detroit, the
Mm,
the racism of Detroit, all the white people leaving and letting
yeah.
this neighborhood disintegrate, the cops of Detroit not doing anything.
Yeah.
In a way, like Detroit is the haunt, this urban decay
Yeah.
of this city.
Yeah. I could definitely agree with that. Um, I mean, you could, take it literal too and say that the haunt is a little bit more the father or whatever you want to call him. I mean, he's
Hmm.
even referred to as being the worst part of the house.
That's true. He's the one that
Yeah.
created her.
Yeah. White men, you could say,
Hmm.
is the haunt.
It's true. Yeah, all
Yeah.
the white men are bad in this movie. Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, poor Keith isn't. He's
Yeah,
dumb,
but
but
you could also say Keith kind of is, because I was thinking of this earlier because I was cooing and cawing over him and I do love him, but like he's kind of would be the face of gentrification because he wants to come and set up this art collective in this, and it's I don't want to go into like a whole rant tangent here, but it's this like cyclical thing where it's like white people build up a neighborhood, black people start to move there, white people get scared, move out, and then because it's a primarily black community, the resources are taken away from that community. The communities go kaput, they don't have the funding and the resources in the community that it needs. So those neighborhoods get run down, and then white people
Mhm.
come back, buy it up for cheap, and then gentrify it. So it's like this cycle.
That's a very interesting point that I hadn't thought of, and that makes his backstory relevant, because otherwise I was kind
Yeah,
of like, why does this matter?
right.
But that makes it make more sense thematically.
Yeah. So the haunt is white people.
Yeah, and gentrification.
Yeah, which I mean, it literally, because even the mother is white, I'm assuming. Well, I guess you can't really tell, but
Well, she is played by a white man.
oh.
So yeah, so there you go. Yeah, the actor, his name is Matthew Patrick Davis,
Mm.
and he went through 5 hours of prosthetics
Oof.
to put this, costume onto him with the
Yeah.
saggy boobs and all the
Yeah.
weird teeth and everything. He seems to be, I don't understand what this man's career is. Clearly, he must be friends with the director. He's done some sketch comedy with the Upright Citizens Brigade. He's
Oh,
written music for Disney Channel shows,
interesting.
and he loves being in prosthetics. On his Instagram page, there's a few different things of him in full prosthetics for different things.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's
um,
fun.
yeah. So another white guy.
Yeah, another white guy, white men. The
Mhm,
haunt.
mhm. The haunt. Terrible. The
Yeah.
ghosts that haunt us all. Um, and then we have a bonus gothic. Not fun in this case. Sometimes the incest in the gothic movies is kind
Mm.
of fun, where it's like, oh, how funny. Oh, it's like a,
Yeah,
a
right.
weird thing,
Yeah.
And this is just like, oh, this is awful.
Oh, yeah, this is
This is
it's like
is
really
tragic.
depressing. Yeah,
This is depressing incest.
it
So
is. Yeah.
that's a bummer.
Boo.
It's more fun when it's Jessica Chastain and Tom Hiddleston,
Loki,
making
yeah.
out in a
Right.
in some gothic tower. Then it's kind of like, oh, hello. Wasn't expecting that, but
Yes, yeah. This one's a bummer.
this was a bummer. So
Yeah.
thanks, movie.
Yeah.
But so what do you think though? Is it gothic after this discussion?
I don't know. I feel like I usually kind of lean towards like goth-ish. Um, I don't know. I think it's a really fun, like maybe modern gothic like twist
Hmm.
on it,
Hmm.
but you know, obviously the tone is a bit different than what we usually talk about. And I mean, the house is different from what we usually talk about, but I kind of like that it's this unassuming Airbnb house. But I guess in that regards, like even though I like it for the movie, I feel like it puts it kind of gothish. But I'm interested. What do you
Hmm.
think?
Yeah, the house does have those catacombs, which feel very
Yes. Oh,
gothic.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, the house itself is very anti-gothic. I wish
Yeah.
I had taken better notes. What did we decide for Candyman? Do you remember?
Candyman. Oh, it might have been gothish, which
I
we should have brought that up more in this conversation because that is a really good movie to tie in with this.
I literally just thought about it
Yeah.
because I feel like we've got some similar vibes there with it being more
Mm,
more urban, this
yes.
urban gothic, and not urban as in the white people calling black people urban, but
Yes.
like just that it takes place in a modern city.
Yes.
Whereas most of the gothic stuff is rural, a lot
Yeah.
of it is, and isolated. And in this case, we're like isolated in a city, so you still have the
Yeah.
isolation, but you're surrounded by an urban environment.
Yes.
Um, so it is interesting because that's, this is more one of the most recent movies we've
Mm,
talked about. So
yeah.
maybe it's indicative of the evolution of modern Gothic. But
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you at this stage and say Goth-ish.
Goth-ish right now.
Goth-ish. Because yeah, I think you made a good point with the tone. I think
Mm,
if it had stuck with, I don't know where the story would have gone, but if it had somehow
yes.
not turned into the Justin Long show,
Yes.
if it would have kept up the gothic feel, but
Right.
making him almost the protagonist halfway through changes
Yes.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like it's again, I really enjoyed this movie and I really liked Justin Long's sort of segment in this movie, but I think in, discussing it as gothic, just in my mind, it always just pops up of Justin Long driving in the convertible along Big Sur, and it's like,
Yeah,
can
sunny
there be a
California.
gothic movie that has that scene? Like, I feel like you could plop that scene in the middle of, Crimson Peak or Jane Eyre, one of our sort of like touchstones, and we'd be like, oh, can't be gothic anymore. Like,
if we had Rochester in a convertible on the
on Big Sur.
on the California coast, that really, scuttles that.
Yeah.
Disqualified. No, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So goth-ish Barbarian, you heard it here. It's goth-ish.
Yeah.
And I should create a spreadsheet that
Yeah.
where we keep track of this.
I'll try to do that. Yeah.
Go back, listen to all the old episodes,
Yeah.
the last 10 minutes of each episode, and figure out what the hell we decided. But anything we want to add to this discussion about Barbarian?
No, I don't think so, except, support your local communities. Don't partake in Airbnbs right now because they're kind of shitty and exploitative.
Especially if they're nice homes in not nice neighborhoods. Something fishy is there.
There's definitely, and I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but there's definitely a murderous, incestuous child in the basement. So don't do it. Don't stay.
Yep. With their creepy white guy father watching tapes of all his victims.
Absolutely.
100%.
So just don't even try.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So we're a public safety podcast, and we're looking out for all of our listeners.
We love you guys. We don't
we
want
love
this to
you
happen
guys.
you. Yeah.
No, we need our listeners. So please don't get kidnapped by any errant Airbnb hosts. So, all right. So thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down Barbarian. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at sogothicpod@gmail.com and send us comments, suggestions for future films. Just say hi. And you can follow us on Instagram for hints about what we'll discuss next. Stay ghosty, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.